Hello and welcome to my channel. This is my portrait of Bruce Lee done in a combination of graphite and charcoal. A couple of you requested a portrait of Bruce Lee, so here it is. Now let's get to it. I'm going to do the sketch with a graphite pencil, and in my reference photo the top of the head wasn't really visible, so I'm going to have to kind of improvise with that part of his hair. The rest of it was in pretty high res, but I felt like the photo was a little bit overlit. It was a black and white photo, and I wanted to draw something with a little bit less contrast. So now I'm putting in some of these indications of bangs here, just so that I would know where they are before I move on to working with a charcoal pencil. Like I said, I'm going to be working mostly in a combination of charcoal and graphite. And with charcoal, it's mostly going to be charcoal pencils, and these are woodless charcoal pencils that I'm using. I'm going to be using a medium one and a soft one. But a graphite pencil will mostly be a Staedtler HB graphite pencil. But in addition to all of that, I will also be using some vine charcoal. So here I'm covering most of his hair with charcoal pencil, but to make it a little bit more even, I added some vine charcoal on top of that. That'll make it a little bit easier to blend, and it'll make everything a little bit fuller, and it'll allow me to create some variation later and to draw some highlights and separate some segments in that hair. Here my footage was just a little bit blurry, but I'm just going to explain quickly what I'm doing. I'm using a soft charcoal pencil now, and I'm adding in some of the darker areas in between the segments of the hair, adding some areas of shadow, just to give that hair a little more structure and depth. And I kind of blended that a little bit with a brush. Later I can go in with a pencil eraser and pull some highlights on that hair, so that some of these bangs or some of these segments of hair would stand out a little bit more. Here I'm starting to work on the eye on the left, drawing the outline of the eye and the eyelashes and the eyelid, and of course paying attention to my reference photo so that I can get the shape of the eyelid right, because Asian people obviously have slightly different looking eyelids. So that's another thing that I have to worry about, in addition to the general likeness and the overall shape of the face. I'm drawing the eyebrows now, and he has very thick dark eyebrows, but in addition to them there is also this nice transition towards the nose where there is also an area of darker value. So I kind of need to try to separate that and make that transition from the eyebrow to that area be in between the eyes. And I'm mostly using a brush to push the charcoal around, to push the charcoal away from the darker areas to the lighter areas. I'm also putting in some indications of areas of darker value around the nose and the nostrils, although I'll probably be adding a little bit more of the soft charcoal in there as well. Here, as you can see, I'm using my HB Staedtler pencil, which is a graphite pencil, to do a little bit of light shading, because this part of his face is a lot lighter. So I'm going to do a little bit of light shading just to create some indications of shapes. But I'm of course not going to leave it like that, because it's hardly visible, because the charcoal around it is a lot darker. So I'm going to have to blend those together and kind of create some transitions. So I'm working on the mouth now. For most of these darker details on the face, I'm using a sharp charcoal pencil, and these woodless charcoal pencils, that's one of the reasons why I like using them. They can be sharpened pretty well. They can be sharpened better than regular charcoal pencils, and they can actually give you some very fine lines, almost like a colored pencil or something, but not quite. So I'm going to start working on the other eye and the other eyelid here a little bit. I've done a lot of the work on the hair, but the hair still looks a little bit flat, so I'm going to have to give it a little more structure. I put in some of the darker areas, but I'm going to have to pull some highlights a little bit later. And as you can see, I'm doing a little more shading with a graphite pencil. You can combine graphite with charcoal. It's not a problem, but you have to understand the properties of each. Charcoal is a lot darker, and graphite is a lubricant. So if you apply too much charcoal, if you apply too much graphite, and if the pencil is too soft, it'll be very difficult to put charcoal on top of it. So as long as you're using graphite pencils that aren't too soft, and as long as you're not pressing too hard or putting down too much, you should be able to combine these two. And what I like to do is, I like to use the graphite pencil for the lighter areas, and the charcoal, both the soft one and the medium one, for the darker areas. And then I use my blending tools to push the charcoal towards the lighter areas, to push the charcoal and blend it with the graphite. And that way I can get some nice transitions, seamless transitions, where it almost looks like I didn't use mixed media. So they can be combined very well, but you need a little bit of experience when working with both of them. So once again, why did I choose this subject? A few of the people who watch my channel on Patreon requested it, and I thought that it was an interesting subject to draw. I already did a few drawings of Bruce Lee in the past, but I don't remember that I did a larger portrait of him. By the way, you can see that I pulled some highlights in the hair using a pencil eraser, so now the hair looks a lot more 3D. And I'm moving on to the other eye and the other eyebrow, and adding some more detail in the eye and shading around it. So like I said, some people wanted to see this portrait, and I thought that it was an interesting thing to draw. I liked Bruce Lee. I liked watching Bruce Lee movies. I'm a great fan of him as an actor and his movies as well. He was a great actor and a great athlete. He was recently portrayed in one of the Quentin Tarantino's movies. I think it's called Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And apparently his portrayal was very unfavorable. I only saw the scene with Brad Pitt, and I thought that it was kind of ridiculous because Bruce Lee was portrayed by some effeminate, unathletic guy, and I didn't think it was a very realistic portrayal of Bruce Lee. So Quentin obviously doesn't like Bruce Lee very much, but I'm not a big fan of Quentin Tarantino or his movies anyway, so there's that. Now I'm shading the area under the nose where there is more shadow, under the lower lip, and around the corners of the mouth. And I'm also using graphite pencil here and there to make these transitions between the darker areas and the lighter areas. So far the face is looking pretty good, but it's still a little bit flat, especially around the nose area, and I want the right side of the face, or his left side of the face, to be a little bit darker. So I'm going to be adding some more value, some more charcoal to that area. here I used a piece of vine charcoal to add a little more value to the right side of the face. And no, I'm not ruining it because it doesn't really matter how you cover it. Vine charcoal can be moved around very easily and blended very easily, so these lines are not going to stick. I could just blend it like this with a brush, and everything becomes smoother, but also at the same time a little bit darker. So you can see how I achieved a nice contrast between the light side of the face and the shadow side of the face, which is an important thing to do if you want to give your subject more volume, if you want to give it more shape. I'm adding some more texture on the lips and above the upper lip, and also shading the area around the nose. So another thing I like to do is to allow the pencil or the pencils to work for me and to create their own texture. So I don't really usually bother to create a realistic looking skin texture, because normally I just let the pencil do it for me, because the pencil in combination with the grain of the paper will produce some kind of texture, and that will usually be enough to create an illusion of human skin, especially in a larger portrait like this. I say this is a larger portrait because the portrait is covering much of the paper, but the paper itself is not too large. It's about 9 times 12 inches. It's just regular drawing paper, it's just that I found that it has an unusual horizontal texture that I haven't noticed before. It's only visible when I tilt the paper, so you probably won't be able to see it here, but it's a little bit annoying, but you know, it's decent quality paper. So as you can see, I've done much of the shading on the face, and now I'm pulling some highlights using a pencil eraser on the nose and around the cheekbones, just on some parts of the face which you would expect to stand out. And you can see how I nearly erased the edge on the left cheek over there, because it's very light, so I want to make it look like the highlight is almost overpowering the line there because of the light source. So I'm adding more shadow because I want to emphasize this transition between the jaw and the neck, and I'm adding some more value to the neck. I mostly used vine charcoal to cover this, but I'm going to do the rest mostly with a graphite pencil because this is a lot lighter. And I'm just adding some indications of neck musculature and the bones, the collarbones, and the muscles around the neck and the shoulders. I'm not really going to do too much to the rest of it because it's going to be like a sort of a vignette, so I'm not going to draw all the way to the edge of the paper. I'm just going to do a little bit more work on the shading of the neck and emphasizing the transition between the neck and the chin and the jaw. He's wearing some kind of necklace or a chain, so I'm just going to put a little more detail in there as well, but I'm not really particularly interested in that. I mostly wanted to focus on the portrait, so I'm just adding a little bit more detail and shading on the neck. And I'm going to make a soft transition towards the lower edge of the paper, like that, kind of fading it towards the lower edge. And I'm just cleaning up the edges all around the portrait, because you want to have clean edges. I'm just going to add a little bit more shadow around this chain or necklace, whatever it is. and I'm putting down some finishing touches, but the portrait is pretty much done. I'm not really sure where I wasn't really sure where to put my signature, but I decided to put it here in the lower left corner, not exactly in the corner, but in the lower left side of the paper. So that's it, that's my finished drawing of Bruce Lee, done in a combination of graphite and charcoal. I hope you enjoyed it, and don't forget to check out my other videos. Don't forget to subscribe. If you want to see longer videos, check out my Patreon channel. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.